All right, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Puzzle Pieces Together podcast, where we have Dr. Bradley Nelson as our guest. A lot of you already know him as the founder of Body Code and Emotion Code, but I want to tell you a little bit of background from him. He's a veteran holistic physician, and Dr. Bradley Nelson is one of the world's foremost experts on natural methods of achieving wellness. He is the creator of Emotion Code, the Body Code, and this is a new one for me, Belief Code, and is the CEO of Discover Healing, a holistic education platform that provides training and certifies practitioners worldwide. I think he has, I don't know if it's up to date, but at least 10,000 practitioners worldwide.
About, yeah, 13,000.
13,000. Okay, yeah, I'm sure it's growing. And the Emotion Code provides step-by-step instructions for working with the body's energy and healing power. And he has a new book called The Body Code, Unlocking Your Body's Ability to Heal Itself. So through extensive study in disciplines such as ancient medical practices, psychology, and quantum physics, as well as the guidance of his own spiritual practice, Dr. Brad discovered the packets of unprocessed emotions were the basis of most conditions. And I will agree with him there. And that is what we're going to get in tonight. So I thought the best way to get into what you do is explain what you do and what is body code and emotion code. I know you've touched worldwide people for, I don't know how long, 10, 20 years. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a long time.
I don't know either. Quite a while.
Okay, so a long time. And most people know what body code is and emotion code, but I love body code. I have to say it's my favorite.
Cool.
I've seen so many miracles with it. So,
Well, I was a computer programmer back in the early 1980s. So I was in right for the beginning, the personal computer revolution when the IBM PC first came out and the Mac, the Apple Macintosh first came out. And so I became a computer programmer. And I had a business back in the early 80s called the Computer Tutor. And I would go into people's businesses and I'd look at the flow of how they did everything. And then I would write some really simple software so they could use this new IBM PC that they had purchased that they had no software for. And it was like a big paperweight. So I did that for a while. And that was really fun. Well, I had been miraculously healed of the measles when I was age 7 because my mother asked my father if he would pray for me. And this miraculous healing took place where I was instantaneously healed. And so I learned at that young age that healing doesn't necessarily have to take a long time. It can happen really rapidly, and that's what happened to me. And I also learned there's a higher power we can draw upon. We can ask for help, right?
mhm.
And so then I ended up with kidney disease when I was 13 and nothing available for me medically to help with this.
Mhm.
And so my folks took me to see some old time holistic doctors and they started working on me and immediately I could feel my body responding. So I knew that what these people were doing was exactly what I needed. So I got well in just a few weeks and I decided, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. But, then I discovered computers, so I got sidetracked for a while. And then it was really a very powerful answer to prayer that brought me back to that original plan of becoming a healer. And so I went to chiropractic school, and I remember very, very well sitting in a neurology class one day, and our instructor was talking about how the brain is a computer. And I remember thinking, wow, the brain's a computer, huh? I wonder if we'll ever have the technology to be able to access what's in the brain. I wonder if we'll ever discover a back door so that we can actually go straight to the source and ask the internal computer in a person what's really going on. I mean, it just seemed like a fanciful idea to me. And I thought, well, maybe in 200 or 300 years, we'll have that technology. Little did I know that's exactly what I was going to be spending the rest of my life on, is figuring out how to communicate with this internal computer that every one of us has.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a really, really interesting thing. Luckily, I had that training as a computer programmer. Otherwise, I don't think I would have been able to figure this out.
Okay.
Because the subconscious mind, you see, I'm sitting on a laptop and it has a screen where I can see messages and things, and it's got a keyboard so I can communicate. And that's how this computer works. It has a screen/keyboard interface, right?
Do you
If you
want
look
me
at,
to pull it up or anything? I have it
yeah,
right in
that's
front of me.
fine. If you
No?
have a
Okay.
smartphone, right? Um, it has a screen where you see messages and things, and it's got buttons like little icons you can click. So it's a touch screen interface, right? Without an interface, your phone would be useless. Without an interface, your computer would be completely useless, right? And if you go back far enough, before there were screens, what did we have? Well, we had punch cards, right? Things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And that's how you'd communicate with the computer. It's way easier now. Well, imagine that an alien spacecraft lands in your yard and you manage to get inside of it. You want to take it for a flight, but imagine that there's no screen and there's no keyboard. You'd be at a loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the computers that we're used to have screens and keyboards, basically, or touch screens or something like that. That's what we're used to. But this is an alien computer. Well, the subconscious mind within each one of us is more like an alien computer than any computer that we're really used to. And I'm always reminded of the Star Trek episode where Captain Kirk comes across this guy, can't remember his name now, who is another starship captain who has been marooned on this planet, I guess. And the only way he can communicate is if you ask him a question, he can only answer yes or no. And it'll be two beeps. He has a little light that he lights up. It's just him it's like his head in a box. And you ask him a question and he can respond with two beeps. And the light is a light that turns on, boop, boop, and it'll go twice for no and once for yes. And that's how they communicate. Well, that's a binary system of communication. And the subconscious mind within each one of us is essentially a binary computer in terms of its interface. Now, what we're learning, of course, is that this computer within us is divine in origin, right? It's divine in origin. And that's why the subconscious mind is something that we talk a lot about, but we really cannot begin and have not yet begun to really comprehend how powerful it actually is. I mean, think about this. That subconscious mind within you, see, when you go to sleep, your conscious mind shuts off, but your subconscious is still running and it never stops throughout your lifetime, right? And that subconscious mind within you is creating millions of new cells every minute, right? Trillions of chemical reactions are taking place. The subconscious mind I believe, is managing all of those. The subconscious mind is also like a holographic archiving computer where it remembers everything you've ever done. Every split second of your life is logged in that subconscious computer system. And it knows exactly, with a perfect understanding, I believe, what exactly is wrong with you if you're not well. If you can't find your soulmate, it knows why. If you can't make enough money, it knows why. If you can't get over this disease process that you're dealing with, the subconscious mind knows why. And so it took me quite a few years to figure this out and refine it to a point where I could use it with all my patients. But I mean, it was a tremendous breakthrough for me because I knew that no matter what a patient had, no matter what was going on with the patient, no matter what their symptoms were, I knew that I could ask their internal computer and I could get the answers. And it worked so well that during the last 10 years I was in practice, most of the people that I saw had been told there was no hope for them at all. And yet the vast majority of them, with just a couple of exceptions, were able to get well. Why? Because I was going to the source. I remember one day, to give you an idea, I remember one day this patient came in to see me and she was very unwell. I think she had really bad chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia with pain all over the body. And I said to her, I was kind of in a goofy mood. And I said, listen, I'm basically clueless about what's wrong with you. And her eyes got really big and she looked really startled. And I said, but wait, don't worry. I said, your subconscious mind knows exactly what's wrong with you. And I know how to talk to it. So it's going to be okay. And, she got well. So anyway, yeah, that's really what this is about. And that, in a nutshell, that's the paradigm that the emotion code and the body code operate under. And this new paradigm is going to change the world. It has to,
Yeah.
because the way that we've been doing things, um, is just so ridiculous and so primitive in so many ways. I mean, Western medicine is great at really acute problems.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get in a car accident and your leg is no longer attached to your body, Western medicine is where you want to go, because they can probably reattach your leg. I mean, it's amazing what they can do. But most of the breakthroughs and most of the successes that Western medicine has is with acute injuries, traumatic problems. I remember when my dad a few years ago had an aneurysm, and they were able to put a little tiny titanium thread through his groin, up through his heart, up into his brain, to this little tiny area where this leak was.
Oh my
They
gosh.
were able to release this titanium thread, and it remembered, because it's titanium, it remembered that it actually wanted to be in the shape of a ball, and it rolled itself back into a ball instantly and plugged the leak. I mean, that's
Wow.
unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. Yeah.
It's unbelievable, yeah. But most of the time, most people don't need that kind of dramatic intervention. Most of the time, most people don't need surgery. When I was in practice, that was the dilemma that I faced. Is I didn't have a DEA license. I couldn't prescribe drugs to suppress people's symptoms. That's what most drugs are for.
Right.
And I didn't have a license to do surgery, so I couldn't remove people's troublesome organs. I had to figure out what was really wrong with them. And so once I began communicating with the subconscious mind, and that might sound really esoteric, like,
No,
Ouija
not
board
to
or
me.
something, but no, but, maybe to some of your listeners. But the reality of it is, the subconscious mind is a binary computer. So we can ask questions and it will give us answers. Any answer that you want, as long as the answer is yes or no. Imagine going to Google. Laura, do you remember when Google had like a button on it that said, "I'm feeling lucky"? Remember that?
No.
Well, a long time ago, when Google first started, they had that little button that "I'm feeling lucky." Anyway, imagine if Google were a binary system like the subconscious mind. Well, it wouldn't be able to elaborate. It couldn't give you lists of things. You'd have to ask questions that could be answered by Google with a yes or a no, right? Now, that might seem impossible, but pretty quickly you'd learn how to navigate that system, and you'd be able to get really great answers. It would just be a little different. You'd have to start from the broad and work down to the narrow. But that's how the subconscious mind works. And so we use different methods of different forms of muscle testing. Okay. And muscle testing is, for example, if I were there with you and if you were to hold one arm straight out parallel to the floor, if I were to press down on your arm and if you were to say, "My name is Laura," you'd be able to resist me. Your arm would be strong against my downward pressure. If you were to tell a lie or say something incongruent or untrue, like if you were to say, "My name is Fred," if I were to press down, you wouldn't be able to resist me. And all of you that are listening or watching can try this at home with your friends. It works, because the subconscious mind, because we're divine beings, and that subconscious mind really, the subconscious is just another name for spirit, the spirit within us, which is, I believe, eternal and immortal and has always existed, right? And always will exist. It knows the difference between right and wrong and true and false and so on. And so we can ask questions and we can get answers. And so that's really how this works. And what I found was that when I started asking my patients questions about what was really wrong with them, I found that the number one most common imbalance that everybody was suffering from, no matter how young or old they were, no matter what their symptoms were, the number one thing was emotional baggage, trapped emotional energies that get stuck in the body and then cause all kinds of mental and physical and emotional symptoms. And that's why I wrote the book, The Emotion Code, and published it in 2007. And then it was about, and of course, that book's gone now in many, many languages all over the world, and it's changing lives all over. And I travel all over the world. In fact, we'll be in Europe for 2 months, leaving next Wednesday, traveling all over and teaching. And then we'll be over in Asia this fall. But wherever we go, people tell us this has changed their life. You know, it's just really, really an amazing thing. And it was about a year after the Emotion Code book was published, I woke up one morning and my mind was full of instruction. And the instruction was, you need to take everything that you've learned about natural healing and put it into a self-study course that anyone can learn and make it available to everyone everywhere. And that was the beginning of what we now refer to as the Body Code system. And so the Body Code book is really the operating manual for the Body Code system. And it's a simple way to tap into the subconscious mind and ask about all kinds of things. You know, do you have some kind of a pathogen in your body that's causing trouble? You can find that. Is there some kind of a toxin in the body that's causing trouble? Do you have some kind of misaligned tissue in the body, a bone or some other soft tissue? Anything can misalign. Do you have a nutritional deficiency of some kind? Do you need a certain food, maybe a superfood? Do you need herbs? You know, are you dehydrated in some way? Do you need some kind of an essential oil? You know, all these questions are answerable. Do you have an imbalance in organ
Isn't
or
there like
gland?
700 and some categories in Body Code that you have created to get answers from? Is it over 700?
Yeah, there's around 1,000, I think.
Oh, okay.
When they when I first wrote the first manuscript for the Body Code and I sent it into our publisher at St. Martin's Press, they read it and they sent it back and they said, no, we really want a how-to book, kind of like the Emotion Code, because the Emotion Code, you can learn the whole process just from the book itself, and people are all over the world. And when they sent that back to me, you know, that it was kind of like a rejection letter saying, no, you have to go back to the drawing board on this. I was kind of dismayed because if we were to print out all the information that's in the app, the Body Code System app, I mean, it would be like 1,000 pages. Nobody wants to read a book that's this thick, you know.
No.
So I wasn't sure quite what to do. So eventually I realized we could take the most common imbalances that people suffer from and put those in the book and explain the process. And that's exactly what's in there now. It's the process of how to do it. And people can actually have success just by reading and using the Body Code book, which is kind of cool and kind of amazing. But it's
ingenious. It is.
Yeah.
It's ingenious. It really is, because one thing leads to another, to another, to another. And most of the time, I'm telling you, I'll just say from my experience, most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, the client comes in and has no idea a certain why of anything. And what the answers you get off of Body Code shocks them every single time, because at a conscious level, they would never tell me those things, not ever.
No, and a lot of the time they don't even know. You know, and I saw oh gosh, I've seen so many interesting things. I'll tell you a couple of stories.
Okay.
And these are stories I think that are actually in the Body Code book. A lady came into me one time that had she had a chronic cough, and I mean, she's coughing all day long, she's coughing all night long, and she came in to see me. She said, I've been coughing like this for a year, and she said, you know, quite a number of months ago, my husband moved to the other end of the house because I keep him awake at night, and she said, frankly, our marriage is under stress now because of this. And she said, I'm afraid if I can't get rid of this cough, I'm going to lose my husband. And so I started testing her using the Body Code. And the answer that came back from her subconscious mind was that there was some kind of a chemical involved that was creating this cough. And by the way, she'd had MRI, CAT scan. She'd been to multiple doctors. They had no idea. Everything looked completely normal. So nobody had any idea what was wrong with her, why she was coughing. And because, you know, normally, I mean, if you're coughing all day long and all night long for a year, you've probably got something serious going on, like cancer or something. But they scanned her and said, there's nothing wrong with you. We didn't know what the deal is. Anyway, so the Body Code, I'm testing her and asking questions of her subconscious mind, which knows what's really wrong. And I was guided to the area in the Body Code about chemicals. And so some kind of a common household chemical. Now, we don't list there's zillions of them, so we don't list them all in the Body Code. But I just went to Google and Googled common household chemicals. And as I'm muscle testing her for these, she goes strong on Campho-Phenique.
Hmm.
Have you heard of Campho-Phenique?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's
That
kind
would
of,
not be something that come to my mind, but no.
yeah, it's kind of a liniment. I honestly don't know. It's probably been banned and probably rightfully so. I mean, pretty toxic stuff. Anyway, so I said Campho-Phenique, and she goes, Campho-Phenique? And I said, yeah, Campho-Phenique. I said, do you use Campho-Phenique? And she said, well, yeah. She said, every night for about a year now, I've been going over to this elderly woman's house. She's been a friend of our family for many years. And it's the last thing I do every day. I go over to her house, and she loves me to rub her feet with Campho-Phenique. And I
Man.
said, well, I don't think you better do that anymore. And she stopped doing it, and no more coughing,
Oh, wow.
And so the subconscious mind, the spirit within us, is divine, and it knows these things, but usually we're so distracted that the subconscious mind can't get any messages through, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, we're on our own. Well, so anyway, let me tell you another story. I had a patient that was hospitalized for 5 days with this pain in her abdomen. And they ran every test that they could, and all the tests were negative. And so finally, after 5 days in the hospital, they said, we can't really find anything wrong with you, so you can't really stay here. And so they didn't know what to do. And so they released her. So she comes into my office, and she's like a 9 on a 0 to 10 scale of pain with her abdomen. And so, okay, I started using the body code, started fixing, I fixed whatever I could find. She had some trapped emotions and things. One of the things that I found as I was working with her, I was taken to the area of nutrition, and her subconscious mind guided me to this area. And we arrived at this point where her subconscious indicated that she needed chromium. And I thought, okay, chromium, well, it's a trace mineral that is great, and we're out of it. I said, I think you need this. I knew that chromium is great for blood sugar, and I thought that's not her problem, right? She's got this severe pain in the abdomen. There's something major going on. I don't know what it is. So I told her, I said, I think you need to get some chromium, but we're out of it right now. So at some point you should get some. Thought it was an incidental finding. So the next day, she's my very first patient. And now she's like a 10. Okay. It's getting worse. It's really severe. And I remember thinking, how did they miss this? She's got to have appendicitis. The pain was right in the right lower quadrant of her abdomen. And I thought, how they missed this, I have no idea. But she's really in bad shape. So I didn't know what else to do. So I started testing her again using the body code system. And out of all the thousands of possibilities, I was taken to this page of nutrients, and I was taken right back to chromium. And only at that moment did I remember, oh, wait, yeah, that showed up yesterday. And I said, I don't know why, but your subconscious mind is indicating that you really need chromium. I said, I want you to leave right now, leave my office, go down the street to the health food store, buy some chromium tablets, ask them for some water, and go. Don't even wait, just take them right there, and then come back. So 20 minutes later, this very athletic young woman, she's kind of in her mid to late 20s, she's literally jumping up and down in my waiting room saying, I'm fixed. I'm fixed.
Oh, wow.
How did that work? And I said, I don't know. I said, I have no idea. I still have no idea. Right. But what I said to her was, the beautiful thing about this is your subconscious mind knew that you needed that.
Right.
Why you needed it, I don't know. No one's ever been able to explain to me why that worked, but your subconscious knew that that's what you needed. And we were able to figure out what your subconscious knew. And that story in a nutshell is really the story of all of this work, because we're divine beings, and within us, we have this knowledge base and this perfect understanding of what it is that we really truly need. And now we have a way. Now we have the Rosetta Stone. The body code and the emotion code are like the Rosetta Stone for the subconscious mind, so we can finally communicate with it. And the public by and large does not understand this yet, But people are waking up to this all over the world,
It's
and
spreading fast. It is. It's
yeah, it's
spreading
gonna
fast now.
yeah, it's gonna change everything really, because eventually, uh, I think eventually we'll get to a point where no one will dream of doing something to the body, some procedure or anything medical without first asking the computer within, would this be a good idea or not? Or what is it that you really need? I mean, uh, imagine every single surgery actually being wanted by the subconscious because it's necessary. Imagine every drug that's given being something that is actually desired by the subconscious mind because it knows that's exactly what we need right now. I mean, uh, that's where we're going eventually, because the cat's out of the bag now.
Right. I mean, they would go out of business, the pharmaceutical company and the medical field, if we really did what we only needed, because a lot of surgeries are not needed.
Yeah, well, and we know, I mean, think about it. Yeah, that would stop drugs, pharmaceutical drugs,
Yep,
being the third
absolutely.
leading cause of death in the country, right?
Yep.
Um, and that needs to happen. I mean, think of all the people that are dead because of it. I mean, not to mention, you know, other things that are killing people that will
Well,
remain
nobody would
unstated.
ever in 10 million years say chromium, go get chromium and you're going to be fine.
No,
Nobody would ever say that.
no,
I'm
no,
sorry. It's
no,
not going
nobody.
to happen.
Right. You're right. Nobody would have ever said that.
You almost didn't say it.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought, okay, this is an incidental thing, whatever, but I told her about it, but then it showed up the next day. Yeah, it's really the most incredible thing. And you see, the thing is, in order to understand this, you have to understand that we're divine beings and that we have a spirit within us that is connected to the light of Christ, or whatever you want to call it, the morphic field, as Rupert Sheldrake would say, the database of all that is, the Akashic records. The universe is filled with intelligence, and uh, it's filled with energy, and all that energy is intelligent. And so we're finally waking up to what the quantum physicists have been telling us all along. I mean, think about it. Albert Einstein, probably 100 years ago, said the medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies. And when he said that, I don't think anybody had any idea what he was talking about except his closest friends, right? And other physicists, and they were probably his closest friends. The medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies. Well, that's exactly what this is, what we're doing. We had no idea what Einstein was talking about or what that would look like, but now we do, because now with the emotion code, the body code, it's the medicine of frequencies. You're working with energy in the body. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, we've been stuck for a long, long time in this chemical pharmaceutical model, the surgical model that was really born on the battlefield in the Civil War and the World Wars. And Western medicine today is really based on this concept, this unspoken concept that I like to call heroic measures. And that means that, if you're a soldier on the battlefield and a cannonball comes bouncing along and it takes off your leg, well, you need to have heroic measures performed on you, or you're going to bleed out and die, right? And traumatic things happen. And so luckily we have Western medicine for those. But Western medicine is really based around that idea. And so as a result, Western medicine waits until there's a crisis, really, before they do anything. And they're mainly geared towards the suppression of symptoms, right? You got migraine headaches. Well, there's a drug that's powerful enough that a doctor will prescribe for you that it'll probably deaden the headaches. You won't be able to feel them that much. But when the drug wears off, you're going to have to start taking them again because they're not really fixing the problem. They're only suppressing the symptom, which is ultimately is going to be looked at as a really silly way to take care of ourselves, right? It's just going to be looked at as really silly and really primitive. I mean, you look at things like cancer, for example. Well, cancer is a symptom, right? Just like any other symptom. In fact, what I have learned is that these symptoms that we experience, all the symptoms that we have, are really messages from the subconscious mind trying to tell us that there's something wrong. So in other words, the subconscious mind, there's no screen on this computer. Instead, we experience symptoms. We get neck pain, back pain, knee pain, elbow pain, carpal tunnel syndrome, things like that. We get headaches, migraine headaches, cluster headaches, you name it. We end up with infertility and asthma and digestive disorder and or disorders and things like infertility and things like depression and anxiety and panic attacks and phobias and PTSD and eating disorders and self-sabotage. All of these things are symptoms. And the reason for those symptoms are that you have imbalances going on in your body that are preventing you, blocking you from being who you're capable of being and from being totally healthy. And so the emotion code and the body code are just really, really simple, easy ways that anybody can learn, anybody can use to identify these imbalances going on in the body and then deal with them so that you can, manifest the health that you're capable of. And it's interesting because, with the emotion code, especially, people tell us, so many people have told us for many years now, that when they release enough of their emotional baggage, it's like stepping back into the person that they were intended to be initially, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's a powerful thing. I mean, people have told us that for the first time in their lives, when they get rid of enough of that emotional energy that's wrapped up around the heart, that they can actually feel the love of God for them. I mean, think about that. How profound is that?
That is, yeah.
Yeah, it's just absolutely profound. And so, so we're in a very interesting place in the world where people are waking up to all the abuses of Western medicine, especially the egregious abuses that have gone on since COVID began.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, it's really surreal and unbelievable what's really happening. And if you start really investigating it and you start looking at the numbers of how many people have died and so on.
Gotten cancer is unbelievable.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's accelerating it, and I mean, all of this, there's a whole new thing now, of course, as sudden adult death syndrome, people just dropping over 50 years old, 40 years old.
A lot of teenagers too. So
yes,
they're just all so full of crap. Sorry about my language, but I get so tired of them all. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time that all that's going on, there's this awakening that's happening where people are actually becoming consciously aware of what's going on in the world. And it's like everybody's been asleep,
yes,
for a long time. COVID has woken up a lot of people.
Yes, it has.
And, yeah. But that's the phase of humanity that we're in right now. And to me, it feels like every day that the level of consciousness of the planet is expanding a little more every day. And I don't believe it's ever going to go back. The genie's out of the bottle. They're never going to put it back where it was. They're going to try. Mm-hmm. And but we know how the story ends ultimately.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tell you that, I can relate so much to what your story is, just because I am blown away when I work with clients and they come in and we'll say, well, I have this issue. And a lot of times they don't even remember, like, could suppress memories and things. And we will find the root cause, the answer, and then it starts to wake their subconscious up, and the subconscious will tell the conscious, this is what happened to me. I know you don't, say that probably publicly, but I just want you to know it's a real thing. And another thing Body Code really does for trauma, the clients, is that it takes pain away so fast. If they have parts of them inside, like little child parts, it takes the pain away so fast and they're over it. So I just wanted you to know that.
It is really amazing. One of the things that happens with kids that have been traumatized is that they'll often dissociate into multiple personalities. And we have one of our top practitioners is a woman named Michelle Yarberry. She practices in Fort Collins, Colorado. And she, typically she's been doing this for a number of years, bringing kids to a point where she can reintegrate all these personalities. And it used to take her a couple of years. And now in just 2 or 3 months, she's able to take a child and reintegrate all those personalities
That's
so that
nice.
they're
She's
whole
working with
again.
kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. We
Okay,
practice.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So what a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really exciting. I mean, the future is energy medicine. And what does that mean? Well, sometimes people are afraid of that, but the reality of it is we're beings made of pure energy, and quantum physicists or anybody that's studied quantum physics at all understands that completely. I mean, they say that if you could remove all the empty space from everybody's body on Earth, you could fit all 7.8 billion people in the world into a box the size of a sugar cube, right?
Oh,
And there'd still
weird.
be lots of in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and quantum physicists, they understand this. They know that everything is energy. Um, but for the rest of us, it's like, okay, that's hard to wrap your head around because we are so physical and we're stuck in this three-dimensional physical world. But if you shine a bright enough light at the body, your bones will make shadows on the wall. They call that X-ray, right? You're just shining a really bright light at the body. That's what X-ray is.
Well, can you address this issue that a lot of practitioners get if you want to talk about just muscle testing? That's it. They say, well,
Mhm.
that they believe in a specific religious belief, and they say that's wrong. Quantum stuff is wrong. Energy stuff is wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. And I'd like you to answer to that. I think people need to know, because there's so many, you wouldn't believe how many people say that it has nothing to do with body code. It's just muscle testing. And it's in that piece of it. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, it's it's a symptom of the shift that's taking place, that we're moving gradually as a culture and as a world. We're waking up to who we really are, and the reality of it is we're energetic beings. I mean, all you have to do is study Einstein, and then if you look at a lot of there's a lot of writings, from various different people about this kind of thing, and some of them, are um, were high up authorities in various different religions. Some of which, are common and popular in this area where we live, and I happen to be a member of the I think the predominant church in Utah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'm a member in good standing. And I love the church, and I love the teachings of the church. And one of the things that's happened with me is that I've had experiences. See, when I first started out, I had run-ins, experiences with dark spirits before. I spent a couple of years in Italy, teaching as a missionary, and so when I started to investigate energy medicine, I was very afraid of being deceived. And so that's part of the reason um, why prayer was such a big part of this for me. Every time I'd go to work on a patient, I would offer a prayer, and being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, my prayer would be as follows, essentially, Father in heaven, please help me to help this person. Thanks for this opportunity. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And that's how I did it. And in fact, in the Emotion Code book, we teach that to people, that's how I do it. And that's how I've gotten these answers. And there were times, during those years where, when I was in practice, where someone would come in to see me. I didn't know how to approach them. I didn't know how to take care of them. And there were times when, in response to that short, silent prayer, and by the way, that was a totally private, totally personal habit. It was never out loud with anybody. It was always just silent. It was just a momentary pause for me, but I'm asking for help because I felt like I needed all the help I could get. There were times in response to those prayers, information would just flood into me about how to look at this and how to help this person, and how to conceive of this. And I mean, it's very interesting because we're so propagandized in the US, especially by the drug companies. I mean, if you ask the average person on the street, what's the remedy for back pain? They'll tell you Doan's pills, because we're so conditioned, right? And people think that Western medicine is the only way to go, and that anything that doesn't come from Western medicine can't possibly have any validity, which is insane. I mean, for example, look at acupuncture. It's been around for 5,000 years. Do you think it would still be around if it didn't work? And that's a form of energy medicine, right?
Right.
So anyway, it's an interesting thing. The reality of it is that this work has come from up above, and it doesn't have anything to do with me except that I'm just the person that was chosen to bring this into the world. And and I'll share an experience that I had with you when I was when I was younger, newly married. I was actually going to BYU, and I was about 6 months away from going into the MBA program there. And I was going to go to work my goal was to go to work, get my MBA, and then go to work for the State Department. And I was hoping to get on the Italian desk and so on, because I speak Italian. And we went home to Montana. This was in the winter, I think, of 84, 85. And we're sitting around with my folks, my wife and I. And my dad, totally out of the blue, said to me, "Are you sure that you don't want to go to chiropractic school? Because it seems like a great career and you've always wanted to do that." And I said, "No, I'm going this other direction." And he said, "Well, why don't you think about it one more time?" So I thought, well, okay. So my wife and I made up a pro and con list, and it was long on both sides. And so that night I got on my knees and I prayed, and I essentially said, "Father in heaven, help me to know which way to go here, because I could go either way now." I was kind of back right in the middle of the fence again. And so that night I had this experience where I was awakened 3 different times. And each time that I was awakened, my mind was full of all of these thoughts about how great it is to be able to help people naturally and heal people naturally and serve people. And then I would counter with something like, "Oh, the new IBM PC is a 4 megahertz processor. So how could I, and then I'd fall back asleep." And so I'm really a nerd. So this happened 3 times that night. So the next day, I still don't know what to do. I'm on my knees that night, and same prayer. And on the second night, I was awakened 3 more times.
Wow.
And each time that I was awakened, the thoughts were exponentially more powerful than the time before. So that on the 3rd time that I was awakened, on the second night, the thoughts of service to mankind and humanity and the whole entire world were absolutely overwhelming. And at that moment, a voice spoke to me and said, "This is a sacred calling." And I thought, okay, I get it, and I accept, I'll do it. And I didn't really know what that meant.
Right.
But it's an interesting thing because I love being in practice and helping my patients. But the things that I was learning, because I was praying constantly, and part of the reason for that, I mean, every patient that I saw, day in, day out, month after month, year after year, I was praying all day long and trying to discern, trying to listen. What does the Spirit want to tell me, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the angels trying to whisper to me about this person? And there were times, I can count those times on one hand, where the information just poured in, right, from the Spirit. And it was understandings, things that I would never have imagined. For example, one day a man came in to see me, and he'd been in a car wreck 4 years before, and he got whiplash. And he said that his neck still hurt like the day after the accident. And so he was a 9 on a 0 to 10 scale of pain. And he'd seen a couple of other doctors for this over the intervening 4 years. And I thought, well, okay, that sounds strange. So I said this silent prayer, and I said, "Father in heaven, help me to understand. If there's something I need to understand about this, help me to understand this, because this seems kind of strange that he's still in so much pain. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen." And immediately this answer just flooded into me. And the answer was that he was rear-ended at a stoplight. And the answer was that the energy that was released in that collision, I mean, an accident like that is over in 300 milliseconds, right? 0.3 of a second. In that 300 milliseconds, the energy that was produced in that accident that crumpled the fenders and bent the frame of his car and so on, that energy went through his vehicle, through his body, and some of that energy
Hmm.
was still there. Some
How
of that
weird.
energy got
Yeah.
stuck in his neck. And that was the answer. And I thought, whoa. So some of the energy from 4 years ago is stuck in his neck. That's wild. And so I just took a magnet and swiped it down his back a few times with an intention to release that energy. And I said, okay, move your neck around. And he looks left and right and up and down and tilts his head. And he said, how did you do that? And I said, well, how's it feel? And he said, well, I'd say it's a 2. I said, when's the last time it was a 2? And he said, oh, before the accident, right? And so think about that. I mean, that's something Western medicine has no idea about,
No.
right? And yet that's something that I have seen many, many times help people immediately. That's something that you can find and you can release instantly. That's just one thing. Let me tell you one other thing that happened. My wife, we have a daughter. We have actually 8 kids, and our youngest is 24. When my wife was pregnant with her, she was really sick with morning sickness, and she was begging me to help her. And I was immediately thinking about all the things that I had tried on other patients over the years, none of which had ever really worked, right?
Mhm.
Morning sickness, what do you do? Well, there's not much you can do at all. Chew on ginger, things like that. And so I said a prayer, and because that was my habit. And I said, Father in heaven, if there's a better way to help Jean with this, help me to understand it, because nothing that I've ever used has ever really worked, right? In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And this answer floods into me, and it was almost whimsical. The answer was, well, you'd feel pretty sick too, especially if you had this new life growing inside of you and your brain wasn't connected to it. And that was the answer. I didn't get anything. That was it. It was like, oh. So I thought, oh, so it's a connection problem then. So what I did is I started muscle testing my wife, and I said, okay, is your brain connected to the fetus? Yes. Is it connected to the placenta? No. Oh, okay. So I swiped a few times to reconnect her brain and her placenta. Is your brain connected to the umbilical cord? No. Same thing. Amniotic fluid? Okay. And then I found I had to check it both ways, right? Because checking it one way, checking to see how the brain was connected, to those parts was one way. But then there was another communication pathway, and that was from those parts to the brain. So then, because that got her about halfway better. And then I started testing, okay, is the fetus fully connecting to the brain itself? No. So then I had to swipe for that. Anyway, by the time I was done, which only took like 5 minutes, her morning sickness was just completely gone. Now,
Wow.
a few days later, it started to come back again. So I checked her, and one of those connections had kind of shorted out. So I had to fix it again. Then she was fine. And then about a week later, started to come back again a little bit. So I just remade one of those connections or 2 of them, and she was fine and never had any other morning sickness. So, we have practitioners now of the body code, because this is in the body code. And they just specialize in working with morning sickness. Imagine
That's a
that,
miracle. Why didn't you have that when I was pregnant?
right?
I'm sure
Sorry.
most women are saying that, because most women there's no answer to that. I just thought we're cursed. We're never getting over it, no matter what year it is.
No,
So
there's
you proved it
absolutely an
wrong.
answer. There's absolutely an answer. See, but to think that all the answers are going to come through Western medicine, as corrupt as it
Yeah.
is just being completely naive and foolish. Because Western medicine will probably come up with some more interesting and great things, but but I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, the natural tendency of people in our very propagandized, highly, what would you say, deluded kind of society, we have this tendency to believe conventional wisdom, and conventional wisdom is that Western medicine is the only way to go. Everything else is, just silly and ridiculous. But remember that conventional wisdom like that is usually bought and paid for by somebody with a vested interest, right? And so, so
Well,
the
I think
idea that a child has to get, 40 some vaccinations,
uh,
be healthy, that's insane. You look at
That is.
autism, and the mothers know that their baby was normal on Tuesday and got a vaccine or multiple vaccines sometimes, and on Wednesday their baby was autistic. I mean, it's so obvious, but yet most people are walking around with blinders on, and these things, they don't realize the truth of what's happening. But anyway, the reality of it is, I would take one person who is intently asking for guidance from God, from above, over a committee of people who aren't, any day. And God has better ideas than we do. He has things that we have no idea about. And one of the things in our church, it says that if you're prayerful, you pray all the time, that things that have never been revealed can be revealed, right? And hidden treasures and treasures of knowledge and so on. And so, again, this work, it's not about me. It's about everybody else. It's about people being able to take these tools and learn how to take back their own healing birthright, which is a birthright that belongs to every single one of us. That's what this is about, really.
Okay, I'm just looking at the chat, and there was a question of ask you, how does the magnet really work? Like, what does that mean when you said the magnet?
Sure. Well, if you think about it, a magnet is just a source of energy, right? That's all it is. I mean, magnets are kind of ubiquitous. Everybody's got magnets on their fridge for the most part, right? And a little magnet like that on your fridge will work great. How does it work? Well, if you're working to release a trapped emotion, for example, a magnet acts kind of like a magnifying glass, and it magnifies your intention. And your intention is really just another form of energy. It's a form of energy that consists of what it is that you want to do, what it is that you want to accomplish. And so when we use a magnet, what we're doing, when we use the magnet over the governing meridian, which travels from the tailbone over the top of the head to the inside of the upper lip. For example, if I'm working on myself, I'll use a magnet, or I'll use my hand. The hand is also biomagnetic. And I'll just pass my hand or a magnet from the forehead over the top of the head to the back of my neck a few times to release a trapped emotion. There's a process that you go through first to identify that emotion and identify anything that the subconscious mind might need you to know about it, like when it occurred or what it was about and so on. So that's why we use magnets. And we found that any strength of magnet works, any polarity of magnet works. We use the governing meridian because it's an energy vessel, an energy reservoir, and it gives us access to all the meridians in the body. The meridians are just like little rivers of energy that flow underneath the skin, and they've been documented. I mean, they have acupuncture maps dating back, thousands of years before Christ. And they're the same maps they use today. So it's pretty wild.
Well,
anyway, it works.
Yeah, I think I learned this from you at one of your seminars where you said the rare earth, and I always say this name wrong, neodymium, is that right? Magnet?
Neodymium?
What is it called?
I think it's neodymium.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, I don't know how this escalated, but I have my clients getting these big rare earth magnets, and one of them got like this huge. I'm telling you, you feel it. You feel it when you're removing.
Oh, sure. Well, you can use those if you want to, but the magnet from your plumber on your fridge will work just as well, and actually cost way less.
I think it's only 13 or 15 bucks. So it's not too much, but anyway, I don't know how that escalated, but now it's like, yeah, you got to get this. So, well, the one thing I don't know about, and then I just wanted, and then we can end, because I try to keep them at an hour. So I just would like to ask you though, I don't know anything about your belief code. Can you tell us briefly
the belief code?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the belief code is a way to find and delete the negative beliefs that exist in the subconscious mind. Now, so let me explain this first of all. The subconscious mind is very different from the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is it doesn't make any judgments about anything. It just draws conclusions. And you can form negative belief systems in the subconscious mind, which can consist, they can be like a tree. Like you'll have the roots of a belief, which we'd call the faulty core identity. You can have the trunk of the tree, which is limiting beliefs. The branches and the leaves are what we call negative programs. And the belief code is our third level of certification. And it works just like the body code. You're able to ask the subconscious mind if you have negative beliefs. Maybe you have a negative belief system that's blocking you from being able to find love or achieve success or whatever it is, or that's keeping you sick. And you can identify those subconscious beliefs and you can delete those very easily. And so it's very, it's very, very exciting stuff. And people are having amazing success now.
That's
We've got,
exciting.
we have around 1,000 belief code practitioners already. We just introduced it in October. And it's very, very
powerful thing.
powerful, very powerful, very simple, very easy to use. And unfortunately, I am going to have to go. I'm getting messaged by my wife.
Okay, no problem. I try to keep it at an hour anyway. And I just want to tell you that I'm so thankful that you took your time out of your busy schedule to do this interview. So thank you. And I'd love to have you back on sometime. And I guess why? Because you were the first person that drew my attention on the body code in 2016, 2017, whenever I got that, went to your seminars. And I said in one of the interviews, why are you talking about entities and curses? And you said, well, it's because so many people have it. And little did I know, my world was going to completely change because of that. And I deal with that all the time. So thanks a lot. But anyway, thanks for everything you've done. We appreciate it. So
well, thank you, Laura, for having me on. And I want to thank all your listeners too for hanging out here with us. And hopefully it was interesting. And I had a lot of fun. So that we'll do it again. Thank you, Laura. Take care.
Take care. See you later.
Bye-bye.